Down in Gundagai, the locals are peeved, not because someone knocked over the dog on the tucker box, as happened 2 years ago, but because the government has done the same to the local council.
Come down here.
Surely it can't be any worse than the last one.
When the amalgamations took place, the cloud that came over the town was just, it was, you could almost touch it.
The Gundagai Council in Exile, as this lobby group calls itself, has been holding regular meetings since they were forced to merge with Cootamundra, 59 kilometres up the road.
We've had to raise our rates 53.5% and also our water and storage 30% and our other fees and charges 15% to stop being insolvent.
Ab McAllister was Mayor of Gundagai for 6 years before he took over the reins on the Cootamundra Gundagai Council for 5. He says the amalgamation has been a disaster.
This is because we've lost $33 million in the first 5 years of this merger, when it was predicted that we were going to make between $3 and $18 million over 20 years.
Put yourself in their position. You just got lumbered with a 53.5% increase to your rates for a decision made by someone else, a decision you fought tooth and nail against, and now you, the victim, are being asked to pay for someone else's mistake. Of course they're not happy. I don't blame them.
Associate Professor Joseph Drew is Australia's leading authority on local government. He warned the mergers would be a failure.
The state government promised that $2 billion would be saved over 20 years, that the entire cost of the amalgamations, which are substantial, would be recouped within 3 years, according to the savings that they proposed. And then after 3 years, the amalgamated communities would be better off to the tune of $100 million per year.
We can lay the foundations for a smarter system of local government in New South Wales.
What's actually happened is that the costs have gone up by 11%.
Ab McAllister backs that up. He says the merger has created diseconomies of scale, with the locals paying more for less.
The senior staff were given large pay rises, and then the bigger the council, the more middle management costs there are. Then you also have equalisation of salaries. Tyranny of distance is another big one in our merger.
Back in 2016, when the mergers began, it all sounded great in theory.
It's about protecting those communities to ensure that we're not going to see the mums and the dads and the pensioners and families out there slugged with rate increases after rate increases and receive no additional services. So that is a guarantee that the New South Wales government has given as a part of this process.
As a sweetener, the government announced a rate freeze for 3, sometimes 4 years. That is now over and rates are on the rise.
Georges River by over 30%, Canterbury Bankstown by over 30%, and there's many, many more amalgamated councils that will be putting up their rates by double digits in the very near future.
Cootamundra Gundagai has voted for a review of the merger. All up, there are pressure groups in 13 councils calling for demergers. They want to turn the clock back 5 years. And faced with costly legal battles, the state has abandoned plans to reduce the number of councils to 112, settling for 128 instead.
Hooray! What they need to do is go back prior to the merger and look at where we were then and have a look where we are now and have a look at the reasons why we got where we are, and they'll soon find out that it's the cause of the merger of the two councils.
The unrest is not confined to the bush. In a recent ballot, 63% of ratepayers in Sydney's inner west called for the re-establishment of the Leichhardt, Marrickville and Ashfield councils.
I think the main grievance was the fact that services had declined and representation had declined. It's a question of service delivery and accountability. Now, people really are fed up with all levels of government not listening to them. They are enraged by that.
Associate Professor Drew says New South Wales should have learnt lessons from Victoria and Queensland.
It seems to almost always end up in premiers having to commit seppuku and leave their post. It didn't end well for Kennett, it didn't end well for Beattie, it didn't end up well for Baird. Sometimes I think there's some sort of holy grail to premiers.
Back in Gundagai, the council in exile mourns a past where the council and community worked hand in hand.
The swimming pool was built because of money raised by the community. You can see over my shoulder here a golf course that was built entirely by the community with assistance from council, because that's what we wanted and that's what we needed.
For the life of me, I cannot understand why state premiers and state local government ministers are fixated on amalgamations. Amalgamations can't be the solution to our problems. If they were, it's quite simple. We've got 528 councils in Australia. Let's amalgamate the whole lot of them. Have one council where they'll be driving on gold-plated roads and paying next to no rates.
In Gundagai, no one expects that. They just want the council restored to its former glory, just like the dog on the tucker box.
It's as plain as the nose on your face. It's got to happen, and until it happens, we won't be going anywhere. We'll be there fighting for the community.
Get the politicians out of it and the bureaucrats out of it and let us run our own show. That's all we want to do.
Well, we contacted the local government minister for a comment, but we didn't receive a response.